progress. I think that that's where, and to be clear with our listeners here is that when you go into a corporation and you have a training session and Robin and her team come in and frame it the way they're framing it, that's kind of what I was getting to. There's good stuff in it. She talks about implicit bias. She talks about microaggressions. She talks about racism and systemic racism and how it's palpable even today in our culture. And I don't think anyone of reason would disagree with any of that. I think that
she approaches it as if it's impossible.
Yeah, well,
and I know, Joey. I know. Okay, so let me just talk a little bit about. So,
please,
like I told you, the book it took a while. Like it didn't take a while to get through because it was definitely a page turner for me. Just in terms of being able to relate to it. And I'm nobody, just so everybody knows, like I don't have any big degrees. I'm not one of these.
You have a master's degree.
I'm just, okay. I have a heart for education. Like if your children were ever in my class, like they still know me.
They were lucky. Yes.
I'm just one of those people that's very passionate and likes to have these conversations because I feel like without these conversations, there will be no progress. And so her book, I think the way that she wrote her book had all the language necessary for the corporate executives to contract her. I think it made for a perfect little contract package. I think she had everything. She checked all the boxes. Can I get in the door? So she got in the door. In terms of dealing with people and teaching or training or coaching or meeting people where they are, yeah. I just feel like it's not even that she approached them as bots. It's just that if you're trying to transform or awaken, because we like that word in the Black community. If you're trying to transform or awaken someone or make them aware of their ignorance in a certain area. And we're in a society where even ignorant can be a very, if you call
it's a pejorative term,
yeah, you can offend somebody by just calling them ignorant. Ignorant simply means you didn't know, right?
Right.
I'm just ignorant to that area.
Right.
I don't feel that if my approach is white, like let's use her, second to last chapter, White Women's Tears. Let's use that.
That's a powerful one.
I knew that one would jog. So let's use White Women's Tears.
Yes.
I feel, and she starts off with this example of one of her coworkers, who's a Black female, coming to her and saying, I just don't feel like dealing with white women's tears today. Okay. And then from that, she spells out how she asked the group that if you felt tears coming to please leave the room and show
if you're white.
And
if you're white.
Right. And don't cry. Right. She told them not to cry.
Or leave.
Leave. Okay.
And that she would leave with you and support you and be there for you. So she was being kind.
Right. Yeah. But her point is not to take away the benefit of the training for the other people because you have now attracted attention to your emotional state. So I understood all that.
Okay, that's one piece that I'm like, all right, I can buy that for a second. The next piece that is, and she says this in her book, that white women's tears trigger Black people's visualization of lynchings. That's in her actual work. And so that to me is taking it, not just jumping the shark, but that's just fucking crazy. That's crazy. And you're a Black woman. You tell me if you see my wife crying, well, she's not white, but if you saw a Chinese woman crying,
she's going to come for you for that.
But yeah, it doesn't even work. It doesn't. That is nonsense. And that I
think she used the wrong example. So,
well, John McWhorter, just so you know, John McWhorter is a professor at Columbia, and he actually talks to this specific piece. And I got
his article. Which book did he write? I've read a few of his.
He's written a couple. He wrote nine nasty words. That's one of them. He's a linguistic, so he talks about that.
But I have one right here. I have one right here.
I don't know. Actually. I've read a couple of them. Okay. But he's also more on the conservative side, and he's against CRT, by the way. And so when he comes in and talks about her, he actually references that, where he talks about where she brings up things like, he brings up black people are reminded of white women crying as they lied about being raped by black men eons ago. So he was addressing the same thing. That's not okay. That's taking it way too far. And if you,
but wait, let me stop you there. I will say that is probably what I'm reminded of. Having a son, I would say that would be.
All right, I'll stand corrected. If you
and I'm not saying so visually, because here's the thing: if you're talking about race, and if we're in a real deep discussion, and essentially, and you also have to mention that Robin DiAngelo is coming at white people like they have KKK hats on, sitting in this training. Okay, this is her. To me, this is her approach. She's looking at you like you have the KKK hat on right there, the whole uniform.
Well, because she actually starts out the conversation by saying we're all racists, herself included.
Right. So your initial contact, remember when I just said when you have a class and you teach students, you have to connect with these students?
Correct.
If students don't care what you know until they know that you care.
Yeah.
So if you're coming to people and you've admitted yourself that you had no knowledge that racism was even real.
I knew it was real. I didn't know the extent of it, right? I mean, I knew it was bad, but I thought it was getting much better. Let's just say that.
Right.
And
or you might not have known how deep the roots were.
Exactly. Okay. Yes.
So if you have a group of people, and as women, we already know we're emotional beings, right? Yeah. So we already know that tears happen all the time with women or anything.
Okay. Yeah.
So, and if you have this group, and yes, Robin, you may only be contracted for 2 hours or 1 hour for 2 days. But in order to get in a woman's psyche, to me, my question is really that the most effective approach? And is that the proper strategy?
No.
And I only say that because
it's insane.
Are we focusing on how Black women feel about your tears, or is our focus on changing or making the person who needs the training, has been assigned to the training, are we trying to teach them something or give them some level of understanding about a very real issue?
Right. And that goes back to what Dax and I were talking about, because he said the same thing. What is our goal? As a DEI consultant, what is our goal? Our goal is to bring white and Black people closer together.
Right.
Period. So when you walk into and I'm just speaking from white, powerful executives.
Okay.
That I can just say. Men and women. If I hired Robin and she came into my ad agency and opened up with, you guys are all white racists, most of your beliefs are tied to white supremacy, which she uses that exact vernacular, right? White supremacy. And you and I talked about this, and I'm like, all right, I'll give you that. A lot of our thinking is based in white supremacy, meaning that our origins are such that we have learned this vernacular and we've extended this vernacular and got it. But white supremacy is an immediate conjure for me of dickheads in pointy hats on horseback lynching Black people. So if you're going to tell me that my beliefs are based in white supremacy in front of the team, and then every team member is looking at me like, what the hell, Joe? Who is this? And why'd you hire her? Right? It's like, well, guys, her goal is to bring us all closer together on racial issues. And like, I don't know if this is working, because first of all, I'm not a white supremacist, because that does have a connotation. We have to recognize that. And by the way, one of the slides, and I got this from the Coca-Cola training.
Okay.
It says what it means to be white. Challenge you what it means to be a racist. So to be less white, this is what it says on the slide. To be less white is, to be less oppressive, be less arrogant, Be less certain. Be less defensive. Be less ignorant. Be more humble, which is kind of the ignorant piece. Listen, believe, break with apathy, break with white solidarity. Okay? Those, if you want to talk about dividing a room